Captain Louise Parker pressed her palm against the reinforced viewport of the research vessel Cousteau, watching Jupiter's massive form dominate the star field ahead. After 18 months of deep space travel, the gas giant's swirling clouds and great red spot had grown from a distant point of light to a looming colossus that filled half the sky. But her attention wasn't on Jupiter itself, it was on the small, ice-covered moon that glided in its shadow. Europa. Captain, we're receiving the final approach vectors from Mission Control, announced Dr. Elena Vasquez, the mission's communications officer. Her voice carried the weight of anticipation that had been building among the crew for weeks. Louise turned from the viewport, her graying hair caught in the artificial gravity field that kept them anchored to the deck. At 52, she was the oldest member of the 6-person crew, chosen not just for her experience commanding deep space missions, but for her steady nerves and ability to make critical decisions under pressure. This mission would test both qualities to their limits. Thank you, Elena. Dr. Chen, what's our current status on the landing preparations? Dr. Marcus Chen, the mission's chief geologist and ice specialist, looked up from his holographic display showing Europa's surface topology. All systems green, Captain. The landing site coordinates have been confirmed. We're targeting the Connemara Chaos region, approximately 50 kilometers from the thermal vents we've been monitoring. The ice thickness there is optimal for our drilling operations, roughly 3 kilometers above the subsurface ocean. Louise nodded, her mind already running through the countless contingencies they'd rehearsed during the long journey. The Europa Deep Life Search Mission, EDLS, represented humanity's most ambitious attempt to find extraterrestrial life. Previous robotic missions had confirmed what scientists had long suspected. Beneath Europa's frozen surface lay a vast ocean containing more water than all of Earth's oceans combined. More importantly, recent data had detected complex organic compounds and what appeared to be simple microbial life near the moon's hydrothermal vents. But Louise and her team weren't here just to confirm the existence of microorganisms. They were here because of the anomalies. Dr. Reeves, remind me about those electromagnetic signatures we detected during the approach phase, Louise said, addressing the mission's xenobiologist. Dr. Sarah Reeves was barely 30, but her expertise in astrobiology and theoretical xenology had made her indispensable to the mission. She pulled up a series of complex waveform patterns on her tablet. The signatures are unlike anything we've seen from natural geological processes, Captain. They're too regular, too structured. There's definitely a pattern to them, but it's not matching any known biological or geological phenomena. Could they be artificial? Asked Lieutenant James Morrison, the mission's security officer and pilot. His question hung in the air like a challenge. That's what we're here to find out, Louise replied carefully. The possibility of finding intelligent life, actual alien civilization, was something they'd discussed in theoretical terms during training, but now, with Europa's icy surface visible through the viewport, it felt startlingly real. Dr. Amy Yilmaz, the mission's chief engineer and systems specialist, spoke up from her station. All landing systems are functioning within normal parameters. The habitat modules are ready for deployment, and our power systems are operating at full capacity. We should be able to maintain the surface base for up to 18 months with our current fuel reserves. Louise appreciated Amy's attention to detail. The Turkish-born engineer had designed many of the custom systems that would keep them alive on Europa's hostile surface, where temperatures dropped to -180 degrees Celsius and Jupiter's intense radiation field could kill an unprotected human in hours. Excellent. Elena, open a channel to Earth. I want to send our final approach status before we lose line-of-sight communication. Elena's fingers danced over her communications array. Channel open, Captain. Transit delay is 47 minutes. Louise stepped into the recording alcove, her expression serious but confident. Mission Control, this is Captain Parker aboard the Cousteau. We are beginning our final approach to Europa with all systems nominal. Landing is scheduled for 0800 hours Europa Standard Time. All crew members are healthy and prepared for surface operations. We'll establish communication protocol once the surface base is operational. Parker out. She nodded to Elena, who sealed the transmission and sent it racing across the solar system toward Earth. By the time Mission Control received the message and could respond, they would already be on Europa's surface. "All right, people," Louise announced to the crew. "This is what we've trained for. Final equipment checks in 30 minutes, then we prep for landing. Dr. Chen, I want you to double-check our drilling equipment. If there's life down there, we need to be certain our sampling methods won't contaminate the environment." "Already on it, Captain," Chen replied, his hands already moving over the equipment diagnostics. Louise returned to the viewport, watching Europa grow larger as they approached. The moon's surface was a maze of ridges, cracks, and strange geometric patterns that spoke of a dynamic, ever-changing world beneath the ice. Somewhere below that frozen crust, in the dark waters that had never seen sunlight, they might find answers to one of humanity's oldest questions: are we alone? She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the years of training, the political battles to secure funding, the careful selection of crew members who could work together in isolation for months on end. But more than that, she thought about the responsibility they carried. If they found life, especially intelligent life, everything would change. Humanity's place in the universe would be forever altered. "Captain," Dr. Reeves called out, excitement evident in her voice. "I'm detecting those electromagnetic signatures again. They're much stronger now, and they seem to be responding to our approach." Louise felt her pulse quicken. "Responding how?" "The frequency patterns are shifting, becoming more complex. It's almost like—" Sarah paused, checking her readings again. "Captain, I think something down there knows we're coming." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Outside the viewport, Europa continued its ancient dance around Jupiter, its surface betraying no hint of the secrets that might lie beneath miles of ice and rock. "Continue monitoring those signals," Louise ordered. "And everyone stay sharp. We may be about to make history." The landing was flawless. Louise felt the gentle bump as the Cousteau's landing struts made contact with Europa's surface, followed by the subtle vibration that indicated the struts were adjusting to find stable ground. Through the viewport, she could see the alien landscape stretched out before them, a world of white and gray ice formations sculpted by tidal forces and dotted with the dark streaks of non-ice materials from the depths below. "Landing complete," announced Lieutenant Morrison from the pilot's station. "All systems nominal. Surface gravity is approximately 0.134 Earth standard, as expected." "Atmospheric pressure?" asked Dr. Yilmaz. "Negligible, as predicted. We're looking at a hard vacuum with trace oxygen. Radiation levels are elevated but within acceptable limits for our shielded suits." Louise began running through the post-landing checklist. "Dr. Chen, begin surface composition analysis. Dr. Reeves, I want continuous monitoring of those electromagnetic signatures. Elena, establish our communication beacon and begin transmitting our status to Earth." "Already on it, Captain," Elena replied. "Earth transmission will take 47 minutes to reach mission control, but I'm establishing our local network protocols for surface operations." The next 6 hours were a carefully choreographed ballet of deployment and setup. Using the ship's robotic arms and the crew's expertise, they began constructing their surface base. The habitat modules were designed to link together into a research station that could house the 6 crew members and provide laboratory space for their investigations. Louise was the first to step onto Europa's surface, her boots crunching into the fine ice particles that covered the solid surface beneath. The sensation was surreal, standing on an alien world, with Jupiter's massive presence dominating the sky above. Through her helmet's heads-up display, she could see her suit's environmental readings: temperature -173 degrees Celsius, radiation levels manageable thanks to her suit's shielding, and a view that no human being had ever seen before. "First human steps on Europa documented," she said into her comm unit. "The surface is surprisingly stable. Ice composition appears to match our predictions, mostly water ice with trace minerals." Dr. Chen joined her outside, his excitement palpable even through the comm system. "Captain, you need to see this. The surface ice formations are incredible. These ridge patterns, they suggest massive tidal stresses. The ocean beneath us is definitely active, Over the course of the day, they established their base and began preliminary surveys. The habitat modules were pressurized and heated, creating a small pocket of human habitable space on the frozen moon. Dr. Yilmaz's engineering expertise proved invaluable as they connected power systems, life support, and communication arrays. But it was Dr. Reeves who made the first significant discovery. "Captain, you need to see these readings," Sarah called from her position at the portable sensor array they'd established 50 meters from the main base. "Those electromagnetic signatures, they're not random. There's definitely a pattern here, and it's getting stronger." Louise made her way across the ice to Sarah's position, moving carefully in the low gravity. "What kind of pattern?" Sarah pointed to her tablet display, which showed a complex series of waveforms. "Look at this. The signals come in bursts every 47 minutes, almost exactly the time it takes for Europa to complete one rotation relative to Jupiter. But that's not the strange part. What is? The signals are directional. They're coming from below us, but not directly below. The source appears to be roughly 2 kilometers down and about 10 kilometers to our northwest." Louise studied the display, her scientific training warring with a growing sense of unease. Could it be some kind of natural geological process? Tidal heating creating electrical discharges? That's what I thought initially, but the patterns are too complex. And Captain, they've been getting more complex since we landed. It's almost like they're responding to our presence. Dr. Chen joined them, having heard the conversation over the comm system. "If there's electromagnetic activity at that depth, it could indicate geothermal vents. That would be perfect for our life detection mission. But geothermal vents don't create complex electromagnetic patterns," Sarah insisted. "Captain, I think we need to consider the possibility that we're detecting some form of technology." The word hung in the thin atmosphere like a challenge. Technology implied intelligence. Intelligence implied they were no longer alone. "Dr. Chen, how quickly can we set up drilling operations?" Louise asked. "With our current equipment, we can begin drilling within 48 hours. But Captain, if Dr. Reeves is right about these signals, we might want to approach this more cautiously." Louise considered their options. They'd come here to search for life, but they prepared for microorganisms, not for the possibility of actual intelligence. "We proceed with the mission as planned, but we increase our monitoring protocols. Sarah, I want continuous electromagnetic scanning. If these signals change in response to our drilling, I need to know immediately." "Understood, Captain. And I want all discoveries logged and transmitted to Earth in real time. If we're about to make first contact, Mission Control needs to know about it." That evening, as the crew gathered in the main habitat module for their first meal on Europa, the conversation inevitably turned to the implications of their discoveries. "I keep thinking about the Drake equation," said Dr. Reeves, picking at her rehydrated pasta. "All those factors that determine the probability of intelligent life in the universe. We've always assumed that if we found anything, it would be far away, other star systems, other planets. But not in our own backyard," added Dr. Yilmaz. "The idea that there could be intelligence right here in the Jupiter system, it changes everything." Lieutenant Morrison, ever practical, raised another concern. "If there is intelligent life down there, we need to consider our security posture. We have no idea what their capabilities might be, or how they might react to our presence." Louise had been thinking the same thing. "Our primary mission remains scientific discovery and peaceful contact, if contact is warranted. But James, I want you to review our security protocols and make sure we're prepared for any eventuality." "Already on it, Captain." Dr. Chen leaned back in his chair, staring out through the habitat's small observation window at the alien landscape beyond. "You know, we've been assuming that if there's intelligence down there, it's somehow analogous to human intelligence. But what if it's something completely different? What if we're looking at a form of life that we can't even recognize as life?" It was a sobering thought. As they prepared for sleep, their first night on an alien world, Louise found herself staring up at Jupiter through her bunk's small window. The gas giant hung in the black sky like a watchful eye, its moons strung around it like pearls on an invisible string. Tomorrow, They would begin drilling into Europa's ice, searching for signs of life in the dark ocean below. But she had a growing feeling that life might be searching for them as well. The drilling began at dawn on their second day, if dawn had any meaning on a world where the sun was just another distant star. Dr. Chen's thermal lance cut through Europa's ice with surgical precision, the superheated plasma beam vaporizing the frozen surface and creating a shaft that descended steadily toward the hidden ocean below. Louise stood beside the drilling apparatus, watching the depth readouts climb on the display screens. 100 meters. 200. 500. The ice here was incredibly pure, formed over millions of years as Europa's subsurface ocean had slowly frozen and refrozen in response to Jupiter's gravitational pull. Electromagnetic activity is increasing, reported Dr. Reeves from her monitoring station. The signals are definitely responding to our drilling operations. How so? Louise asked, not taking her eyes off the drilling display. The frequency patterns are becoming more complex, and the signal strength has increased by nearly 30% since we began drilling. Captain, whatever's generating these signals, it knows we're here. Dr. Yilmaz looked up from her engineering console. Could our drilling be triggering some kind of natural response? Maybe we're affecting subsurface currents or geological formations? That's possible, Dr. Chen replied. But the response is too immediate. Natural geological processes typically work on much longer timescales. Louise made a decision. Continue drilling, but I want all departments to increase monitoring. Elena, prepare a detailed report for Earth transmission. Include all sensor data from the past 48 hours. Already compiled and ready to transmit, Captain. The drilling continued for hours, the thermal lance steadily cutting deeper into Europa's frozen crust. At 1 kilometer depth, they encountered a layer of darker ice that appeared to contain more mineral content. At 2 kilometers, the ice became more crystalline, suggesting rapid freezing events in Europa's geological past. And then, at 2.7 kilometers depth, everything changed. Captain? Dr. Chen's voice carried excitement and alarm in equal measure. We've hit something. The drill has stopped advancing. Louise moved quickly to the drilling console. Equipment malfunction? No, the drill is functioning perfectly. But it's encountered some kind of barrier. Look at these readings, it's not ice, and it's not rock. The display showed the drill's sensors detecting a material with unusual properties. Harder than ice but with a different crystalline structure than any known mineral. More importantly, the material appeared to have been shaped. Shaped how? Louise asked. Dr. Chen enhanced the sensor image, and the answer became clear. The barrier wasn't a natural formation, it was architectural. The drill had encountered what appeared to be a constructed surface, possibly a wall or ceiling of some kind of structure. Captain, Dr. Reeves called from her station, her voice tight with excitement. The electromagnetic signals just increased by an order of magnitude. And they're definitely coming from the other side of that barrier. Louise felt her heart rate increase. They'd found something artificial beneath Europa's ice. Something that was actively generating complex electromagnetic signals. Something that might be reacting to their presence. All right, people, listen carefully, she announced to the crew. We may have just made the most important discovery in human history. I want every sensor we have focused on that structure. Dr. Chen, can we safely widen the drill hole to get better sensor access? Absolutely. The structure appears to be solid enough to support a larger opening. Do it. But carefully. We're not here to damage anything we might find. Over the next several hours, they carefully expanded the drill hole and lowered sophisticated sensor packages toward the artificial barrier. What they found defied easy explanation. The structure was clearly artificial, composed of materials that didn't occur naturally on Europa. The electromagnetic signals were emanating from beyond the structure, suggesting something active in the space behind it. Most remarkably, the structure showed signs of recent construction or maintenance, indicating that whatever had built it was still present. Captain, Dr. Reeves said quietly, I'm detecting movement beyond the barrier. Something large, and it appears to be approaching our drill site. Louise felt a chill that had nothing to do with Europa's frigid surface. How large? Difficult to determine through the barrier, but the electromagnetic signature suggests something roughly the size of a small vehicle. And Captain, it's definitely artificial. The signal patterns are too complex to be biological. They gathered around the monitoring station, watching the displays as something unknown moved through the dark waters beneath Europa's ice. The implications were staggering. Not only had they found evidence of intelligence on Europa, but that intelligence appeared to be technological and active. "What do we do now?" asked Lieutenant Morrison. "Our protocols didn't really cover this scenario." Louise considered their options. They could retreat, gather their data, and return to Earth with evidence of alien intelligence. Or they could proceed with the mission and attempt to make contact. "Dr. Chen, is there any way to create an opening in that barrier without damaging it?" Chen studied his readings. "The material appears to have seams or joints. If we could locate one of those, we might be able to create a small opening without compromising the structural integrity." "Do it. But slowly and carefully. If this is some kind of habitat or structure, we don't want to cause a catastrophic failure." "Captain," Elena interrupted, "I'm receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Mission Control wants an immediate status update." Louise realized that their scheduled transmissions to Earth must have included enough anomalous data to trigger concern at Mission Control. "What's our transmission delay?" "Still 47 minutes, Captain." "Send them everything we have. Full sensor logs, imaging data, electromagnetic recordings. And Elena, include a message that we may be attempting first contact within the next 24 hours. As Elena composed the transmission, Dr. Chen worked to identify weak points in the barrier structure. Using precision laser cutting tools, he began creating a small opening, just large enough to lower a fiber optic camera and additional sensors. "Opening complete," he announced. "Lowering the camera now." The main display screen flickered to life, showing the view from the camera as it descended through the opening and into the space beyond. What they saw took their breath away. Beyond the barrier lay a vast chamber carved from the ice and rock of Europa's subsurface. The chamber was filled with water, the dark, hidden ocean they'd come to explore. But this wasn't a natural cavern. The walls showed clear signs of construction, with smooth surfaces and geometric patterns that spoke of intelligent design. And moving through the water, clearly visible in the camera's lights, were structures that could only be described as machines. "My God!" whispered Dr. Reeves. "Captain, we're looking at an alien civilization." The machines, for that's what they clearly were, moved with purpose through the water-filled chamber. They were roughly cylindrical, with multiple appendages that seemed to serve different functions. Some appeared to be construction or maintenance devices, while others looked more like transportation vehicles. But most remarkably, as the camera's lights illuminated the chamber, the machines began approaching the opening. They moved with obvious intelligence, grouping together and positioning themselves to observe the human intrusion into their domain. "They're curious about us," Louise said, watching the machines maintain a respectful distance while clearly studying the camera. "That's a good sign. If they intended hostility, they would have acted by now." Dr. Reeves was recording everything, her instruments capturing the electromagnetic signatures generated by the machines. "Captain, the signal patterns. They're incredibly complex. I think they might be communicating with each other." "About us?" "Possibly. The patterns changed when we introduced the camera. They're definitely aware of our presence." Louise made a decision that would echo through history. "Dr. Reeves, can we generate electromagnetic signals using our equipment?" "Certainly. Basic patterns anyway." "Do it. Send a simple mathematical sequence, prime numbers maybe. Let's see if they respond." Sarah programmed their communication array to generate a simple electromagnetic pulse sequence. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, the first 5 prime numbers. The signal was transmitted through the water toward the assembled machines. The response was immediate. The machines moved closer to the opening, their own electromagnetic patterns shifting to match the human transmission. Then, incredibly, they transmitted back the next numbers in the sequence, 13, 17, 19, 23. They understand mathematics, Louise said, her voice filled with wonder. We're actually communicating with an alien intelligence. The implications were staggering. Humanity had just made first contact with an extraterrestrial civilization. And it had happened not on some distant world, but right here in their own solar system, beneath the ice of Jupiter's moon. Captain, Elena announced. Priority transmission from Earth. Mission Control is requesting immediate clarification of our previous data transmission. Louise looked around at her crew, 5 other human beings who had just witnessed history being made. Tell them we'll respond in detail once we've established stable communication with our new neighbors. She turned back to the display screen, where alien machines continued to hover in the dark waters beneath Europa's ice. Whatever happened next, everything had changed. The communication breakthrough came 18 hours later, after a night of intensive work by the entire crew. Dr. Reeves had managed to establish a basic mathematical dialogue with the entities beneath the ice, progressing from simple number sequences to basic geometric concepts. But it was Dr. Yilmaz who suggested the approach that finally opened true communication. Language is based on patterns, Amy had argued during their early morning planning session. But so is engineering. Maybe we should try communicating through technology instead of abstract mathematics. The idea was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of sending mathematical concepts, they began transmitting technical diagrams, simple machine principles like levers, pulleys, and gear ratios. The response from below was immediate and enthusiastic. The alien machines not only understood the concepts but began transmitting back their own technical diagrams, showing far more advanced engineering principles. Look at this, Dr. Chen said, examining the latest transmission from the aliens. This appears to be some kind of propulsion system, but it's based on principles I don't recognize. The energy conversion ratios are incredible. Louise studied the diagrams appearing on their screens. The alien technology was clearly far more advanced than human engineering, but the underlying principles were still recognizable. More importantly, the fact that they were sharing technical information suggested a peaceful intent. They're trying to establish trust, she observed. By sharing their technology, they're demonstrating that they don't see us as a threat. Dr. Reeves looked up from her communication console. Captain, I think they're ready to attempt more complex communication. The electromagnetic patterns they're sending are becoming increasingly sophisticated. I believe they're trying to establish linguistic protocols. What kind of linguistic protocols? They seem to be associating their technical diagrams with specific electromagnetic patterns. It's like they're creating a basic vocabulary, connecting concepts with symbols. Louise felt a surge of excitement. Can you respond in kind? I think so. We can associate our own electromagnetic patterns with our technical diagrams. It might be the beginning of a translation matrix. For the next several hours, the crew worked intensively to establish this basic alien language. They began with simple concepts, associating electromagnetic signatures with basic technical principles, then gradually expanding to more complex ideas. The aliens proved to be remarkably quick learners, rapidly grasping the human communication attempts and responding with increasingly sophisticated patterns. But it was Elena who made the next crucial breakthrough. Captain, I think they're trying to send us location coordinates, she announced, studying the latest transmission from the aliens. These electromagnetic patterns, they correspond to specific positions relative to our drill site. Louise examined Elena's analysis. The patterns did indeed seem to represent spatial relationships. Locations for what? I think they want to meet us. The thought sent a chill through the entire crew. Meeting alien intelligence through electromagnetic communication was one thing. Meeting them face to face was something else entirely. Dr. Chen studied the coordinate data. The location they're indicating is approximately 5 kilometers from our base, in a region where our surveys detected some unusual surface formations. Lieutenant Morrison raised the obvious concern. Captain, we need to consider the security implications. We know nothing about their physical capabilities or intentions. Louise nodded. James is right. But we also need to consider the scientific and diplomatic implications. This could be humanity's first face-to-face meeting with an alien intelligence. We can't let fear override the potential benefits. What about environmental concerns? Asked Dr. Yilmaz. If they're adapted to Europa's subsurface ocean, how can they survive on the surface? And how can we meet them safely? Dr. Reeves had been monitoring the continued electromagnetic communications. Captain, they're sending new diagrams. These look like environmental suits or protective equipment. I think they're showing us how they plan to surface safely. The alien diagrams were remarkably detailed, showing what appeared to be sophisticated environmental suits designed to protect water-adapted organisms in Europa's vacuum environment. The engineering was far more advanced than human spacesuits, but the basic principles were understandable. They've thought this through, Louise observed. This isn't a spontaneous decision. They've been planning for this possibility. Dr. Chen made another observation. Captain, look at the timing of their communications. They've been responding to our transmissions with perfect synchronization, accounting for signal travel time. That suggests they understand our technological limitations and are adapting their communication protocols accordingly. Louise considered the implications. The aliens were not only intelligent, but they were demonstrating patience, understanding, and a willingness to accommodate human technological limitations. These were the qualities of a sophisticated civilization, not a primitive or hostile one. All right, she decided. We're going to attempt a surface meeting. But we do this carefully and with full precautions. She turned to address the entire crew. James, I want you to prepare our portable defense systems, just as a precaution. Amy, can our environmental suits handle extended operations at the suggested meeting coordinates? Absolutely. The suits are rated for surface operations up to 12 hours. Elena, send a transmission to Earth immediately. Full briefing on the situation and our intention to attempt first contact. Dr. Reeves, establish communication protocols for the meeting. We need a way to continue dialogue during face-to-face contact. Dr. Chen, I want you to prepare portable scientific equipment. If we're meeting aliens for the first time, I want to document everything. The crew worked through the night preparing for the historic meeting. They established communication protocols, tested equipment, and planned contingencies for every scenario they could imagine. But as dawn approached on their fourth day on Europa, Louise realized that no amount of planning could truly prepare them for what they were about to experience. As they suited up for the journey to the meeting coordinates, Elena received a final transmission from the aliens. The electromagnetic pattern was simple but clear. It was a countdown sequence, timed to coordinate their surface emergence with the humans' arrival at the meeting site. They're giving us a schedule, Elena translated. Surface emergence in 6 hours, at the coordinates they specified. Louise sealed her helmet and checked her suit's systems one final time. All right, people. Let's go make history. The journey across Europa's surface to the meeting coordinates took 3 hours, moving carefully across the treacherous ice formations that characterized the moon's landscape. The location the aliens had chosen was a relatively flat area surrounded by the strange ridge formations that Europa was famous for, possibly providing some shelter from Jupiter's intense radiation field. As they approached the coordinates, Dr. Reeves detected increased electromagnetic activity from beneath the surface. They're down there, Captain. Multiple sources, moving into position. Louise checked her chronometer. 2 hours until the scheduled meeting time. Set up our equipment and establish a defensive perimeter. But remember, we're here for peaceful contact. The weapons are only for emergency protection. They arranged their portable sensors and communication equipment in a semicircle around the designated meeting spot. Dr. Chen set up his recording devices to document every moment of the encounter. Lieutenant Morrison positioned the portable defense systems at discrete distances, ready to activate if needed but not obviously threatening. And then, with 30 minutes remaining until the scheduled contact time, the ice began to move. A section of the surface about 50 meters from their position started to glow with a faint blue-green light. The ice itself seemed to be melting from below, creating a perfectly circular opening that gradually widened as they watched. Thermal signature is incredible, Dr. Chen reported. They're using some kind of controlled heating system to create the opening. Steam rose from the opening as Europa's frozen surface met the warmer waters of the subsurface ocean. And then, emerging slowly from the depths, came humanity's first glimpse of alien intelligence. The being that rose from the opening was unlike anything they had imagined, yet somehow familiar in its obvious technological sophistication. It was roughly humanoid in overall structure but clearly adapted for aquatic life. Its environmental suit was a marvel of engineering. Transparent sections revealed the alien physiology beneath, while advanced life support systems maintained a water-filled environment within the suit. But most remarkably, as the alien reached the surface and moved toward the human delegation, it raised one appendage in what could only be interpreted as a greeting. Dr. Reeves activated their communication array, sending the predetermined greeting sequence they had developed. The alien's response was immediate, the same sequence, returned with obvious understanding. Louise stepped forward, her heart pounding with the realization that she was about to become the first human being to directly communicate with an alien intelligence. "Hello?" she transmitted through their electromagnetic communication system. "We are peaceful explorers from the planet Earth. We come seeking knowledge and friendship." The alien's response, when it came, changed everything humanity thought it knew about intelligence in the universe. "Greetings, surface dwellers. We have been waiting for you for a very long time.